Pour yourself a cold one and listen to the best college football picks podcast going, The College Draft. Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. We give you at least 10 college football bets every week, while also, by the way, making sure you're aware of the best prospects in those games and talking about some of the biggest news around college football. But every week, at least Emory's 10 favorite bets for that week. And even week this week, by the way, Emory, you went 5-5. We'll always go back over the week before's bets quickly so that you guys know how Emory did, how we did, and also just our thoughts on the games before we move on to week 4 in college football. The Emory I reference, of course, is my brother from another mother, the terrific Emory Hunt. Huge fan of this guy. Just remember that I've had him as my co-host for a couple years now, when 3 to 4 years from now, he's everywhere. He kind of already is, right? CBS Sports HQ, CBS Sports Network, because he's polished, he wears great suits, and nobody puts more time in than him. At FBall Game Plan on Twitter, Football Game Plan on YouTube, footballgameplan.com/2026 draft guide. We're getting more and more people listening and watching every week, especially YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, which is why I feel like we got to go ahead and introduce ourselves every week for all the new people watching, which is terrific. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman. I call games now for Westwood One on the radio, CBS on television. This week on Thursday night, I got the Dolphins and the Bills, national radio Westwood One. Then Sunday, the red-hot Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans to see Cam Ward and Alec Iamaner. I'm looking forward to that. But this is the college football show on the Ross Tucker Podcast Network, so we're going to dive into it. Let's start with Georgia Tech, Emory. Last week, really good timing for you to be talking about your man crush, Haynes King, the guy that you think is the best quarterback in the ACC. Not Cade Klubnik, not Carson Beck. You like Haynes King. You took Georgia Tech plus the 6.5. They didn't need him, Emory. They won outright. I feel like Georgia Tech and Brent Key wins all these games outright.
Exactly. That's why it was shocking to me to see that line, and also shocking to me to see how people don't talk enough about Haynes King. I feel like we'll get to this conversation later about the quarterback position, but man, when you watch football, I think we've become, I don't know how to phrase it, but when we're watching football, a lot of times people are not watching it for the game. They're watching it for the narratives. And if you're not watching it for the game, you're missing a very good Georgia Tech football team that will find a way to make a way consistently.
Super impressive. I kind of love the way they play. I love the way they attack downhill. You know what they play like, Emory? They play like their head coach is an O-line guy.
Right.
And this will sound self-serving, but trust me, I'm not getting into coaching anytime soon. So maybe more O-linemen should get opportunities as coordinators. Maybe more O-linemen should get opportunities as head coaches. Maybe more O-linemen should move up the ranks in broadcasting. Maybe they know a little. That was very self-serving, actually. But maybe they know a little something. I'll say this, by the way, and I mean this in all sincerity. When's the last time an O-line had a good game and the team didn't move the ball or score points? Never happens. It's not a thing, right? So if the coordinator makes the plays O-line friendly, I got news for you. And the O-line performs, you're going to have a good offense. You're going to move the football. And how about Clemson? The best thing they got going is they could still win the ACC potentially. But, Emory, that's bad. I mean, they got Woods and Parker and Avion Terrell, and they got all these guys that are supposed to be top 10 picks. Their O-line, a lot of those guys have been playing for years. What a surprising start for the Clemson Tigers.
They don't have Haynes King. That's what they don't have, Ross. They don't have America's quarterback, Haynes King. And the thing about Georgia Tech, there's no Florida State, there's no SMU, there's no Miami on their schedule. So this was the game they had to win. We may see Georgia Tech in that little 1920s Dick Tracy car cruise all the way to the ACC title game.
Wow. I didn't realize that. That's big time. All right. You had Oregon. You laid the 27.5 against Northwestern because you said Oregon was a juggernaut. Didn't happen. They only won by 20 on that beautiful field on the lake there in Northwestern. They weren't able to rack them up.
Rack this up or write this under the "this is why you shouldn't bet" column. This along with why Penn State allowed Villanova to cover on the last play of the game, because this game was a shutout for the entirety of the game. And then it was like Northwestern decided, you know what, let's score some points here. We got our fans out here. Let's give them a show. And they blew the cover. This is why you don't bet, Ross.
Yes. Well, here's what I would say. This is why you don't lay that many points, is how I would phrase it, right? Because Oregon's not trying to win necessarily by, 27.5. That's not what they need. So that's how I would phrase it. All right. What about Tennessee? Man, you took the Vols getting the 6.5. Unfortunately, they didn't win the game, but they won the bet. Georgia won 44-41. Fantastic football game.
Great football game. I rewatched it this morning. But here's the thing, Ross. This is why this show is important, because when we do this early Monday morning, we take advantage of early lines. So that's why I took Tennessee plus 6.5. But when I was on CBS's show that we do every Wednesday, that number had dropped precipitously to 3.5, and I took Georgia. So therefore, people will probably say in the comments, well, you took Georgia over here, you took Tennessee over here. Well, this is why you take the bets early, because you get better value on the number. And if the number changes, that changes everything.
Well said. All right. Texas Tech, you laid 24.5 with the Red Raiders. Again, in college football, the way they want to get those other, like the freshmen in for the 4 games, they want to get those other guys in. I always think that that's dicey to lay that many points, but Oregon State is struggling. Not a good year for the Pac-2. Oregon State and Washington State. It is a brutal year, and I think I know why. I think a lot of guys transferred out. When they saw that they didn't have a power conference anymore, those guys, the good players they had, like Mateer or whoever, they went to power conferences. So these teams are struggling. Oregon State got blown out. I'm wondering, what the job security is for that head coach, Trent Bray.
Oof, that is tough, man, because they look awful. Them, along with Washington State, look terrible out there, man. I mean, Washington State got deflowered by North Texas. I never thought I'd say deflowered, number one, but I never thought I'd see the day where I'd say North Texas just beat the brakes off Washington State. It's crazy.
That is crazy, but you hit. So you were 3-1 to start the day with Texas Tech. Then Iowa State, you laid 20.5, big ones. By the way, highly encourage everyone to listen to Saturday's Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It's called the Saturday Sit Down. I thought Anthony Becht had so many awesome things to say about parenting and being a dad of a college starting quarterback like his son Rocco Becht, who I didn't realize, Emory, somehow has another year of eligibility after this, which is insane. He's like, it's like they're going from Brock Purdy 1 to Brock Purdy 2 with Rocco. That's kind of who he reminds me of, which is wild. Iowa State, I thought that there might be a letdown. I did not like this bet by you, no offense. But I thought after the Iowa win and the emotion of that, now they got to go on the road to Jonesboro, to Arkansas State. They got the win 24-16, but wasn't pretty. Certainly didn't win by 20.5.
Right, and that's a place where you got to fly into. Listen, we did this at UL. We flew into Little Rock and drove to Jonesboro. Yeah, so that was a trip for Iowa State.
Arkansas, you took your guy Taylon Green and the Hogs getting 9.5. They didn't win, but your bet did. Ole Miss took care of business 41-35, but you saw Arkansas getting the 9.5, and you love you some Taylon Green.
You saw how Taylor Green performed, right? If they had an average defense at Arkansas, they win that game by double digits because Taylor Green, Ross, is putting up Heisman Trophy numbers, but no one's talking about it, just like no one's talking about Haynes King. We'll discuss that later.
You know, you love some certain quarterbacks, and more often than not, you're right. And not always necessarily as pro prospects, but a lot of times you are right for pro prospects, but certainly in terms of how they perform at the college level. Haynes King is your number one ACC guy, and Taylor Green is your number one SEC guy. Looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, Ross, I be struggling to figure out why folks can't see the it. And that's what makes the quarterback position, right? When you look at who performs well under pressure, therein lies the entirety of the position. I don't care about the physical traits. That's always going to be a sliding scale of who has stronger, who's faster, blah, 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 blah. But who plays best in these high leverage situations? To me, give me that guy 10 times out of 10 before anybody else.
So you missed on South Florida. You took them 16.5. I was with you on that. You know, getting a 3-score spread with South Florida after their wins over Boise and the Gators. Miami just, it was over. Miami beat them 49-12. You liked the over 47.5 for Vandy, South Carolina. And South Carolina, Lenora Sellers gets hurt. They score 7 points after he got concussed. Vandy won 31-7.
Yeah, if Lenora Sellers plays, that goes over easily because it would have been another one of these wild back and forth games for Vandy.
You were all over the Ohio Bobcats getting 33.5. They hung with the Ohio State Buckeyes for a while. 37-9 is the final score. And then A&M Notre Dame, you took the under 48.5. Great call there, Emory. It went 41-40. Hey, I don't know about you. I feel better. When I make a bet like that, I'd rather just get blown out of the water. I don't want it to come down to the last play and some kid trips and gives up a touchdown. That's how I lose. If I'm going to lose, I want to just get absolutely blown out of the water. I might have more to say, by the way, about quarterbacks a little bit later, but I want to make sure we dive in to your Week 4 bets. Don't go anywhere. Got to pay some bills real quick. There are some big-time college football matchups this week. Love the rivalry games like the Apple Cup. Here's the deal. You know what that means when it's rivalry week. Tensions are high. Bragging rights are on the line. Here's what you need to do. Get Twisted Tea. That'll make this game even more enjoyable. It's real brewed iced tea with a little twist, literally smooth, full flavor. You actually want it on game day. No carbonation, no weird aftertaste. So when you're getting ready to root for your team this weekend, do not forget to stock up on Twisted Tea and keep rivalry week for these rivalry games like Washington State. Keep it twisted. All right, let's start with Texas Tech. They've been on a roll. I think this is the big noon kickoff on Fox. They're playing at Utah. They're getting 3.5, and you're rolling with those guys.
Money talks, and you know what else walks, Ross? So money talks. Texas Tech, all that money in the offseason. This is what they've been blowing teams out for in preparation for these type of games. I think they have the offense and the defense to make things difficult for Utah. I love the number. I am taking the Red Raiders plus the points.
Love it. Who are we watching in that game, by the way?
David Bailey, the edge rusher for Texas Tech, came from Stanford. No gloves, no tape, no nothing. Just out there getting to the quarterback. Give me that dude 10 times out of 10.
All right. Next up, Auburn. You're taking Auburn getting the 6.5. You're taking a lot of underdogs this week, which I like. You're taking Auburn getting the 6.5 at Oklahoma.
This means something for Jackson Arnold. I was loud and wrong about Auburn earlier in the offseason, and then he went out there and took it to Baylor from start to finish. And they've been playing with great confidence, especially Jackson Arnold. And this is a game where he gets to go out and show, hey, even though John Mateer is playing great for you guys, You shouldn't have gave up on me. So I think this will be a tightly contested game, conference game, because it's in the SEC. This is going to be one of the better games of the weekend.
Yeah, it's weird to see all these SEC matchups like this at Oklahoma. I still can't wrap my head around that's Auburn at Oklahoma is an SEC game. It just
Don't feel
feels
right.
strange. All right, what about Tulane, who I can't believe that. I mean, isn't Duke paying Tulane's old quarterback a ton of money, and then Tulane just whipped up on them?
Yep, with Jake Retzlaff, who was at BYU, which is why I like the points here against Ole Miss. We all just watch Ole Miss's defense, Ross. Like defense, we always know this under Lane Kiffin. Defense is just out there because you have to field 11 guys on that side of the ball, but they don't really play defense. So this game will go back and forth. Thus, we'll see Tulane, who still has a chance to be that G5 representative now that South Florida took that loss. I like this one to go close and down to the wire once again.
How do you pronounce Tulane?
Tulane. Some people say Tulane, but locals say Tulane.
So I say Tulane. Like
Yeah,
I put the emphasis on the second syllable, but you're from there, so you would know more than me.
So I say Tulane.
Got it. That's
TWO.
All right. So far, Emory likes Texas Tech plus 3.5 at Utah, Auburn plus 6.5 at Oklahoma, Tulane plus 12.5 at Ole Miss. So Emory is really into the road dogs. Let's get another one. Illinois plus 4.5 at Indiana, Emory.
I feel like Indiana be picking on people smaller than them, right? And this is a game where they got to fight somebody their own size. So because of that reason, and I actually like how both quarterbacks have played for one, Indiana and also Illinois. This is going to be a fantastic game that's not on the basketball court. I like this as a tightly contested, maybe a field goal game as opposed to this 4.5. So while you see 4.5 right now, grab it. This one will be tight. I can trust in Illinois' defense to come up with a stop more so than Indiana.
You know what's interesting? This is the best team that I think both these programs have had for a while. Indiana was obviously very good last year. They might even be better this year. Illinois, these are teams that are typically in the bottom half of the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And these coaching staffs have done an unbelievable job. They're now in the top half of the Big Ten. Clearly, that's a nice job by both these coaches, Signetti and Bielema. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Indiana made the playoff last year. I wouldn't be shocked if either one of these teams made the playoff.
And what's crazy, Ross, when we look at this collectively, top to bottom, this is why the Big Ten has usurped the SEC in terms of strongest conference.
Because of teams like Indiana and Illinois.
Correct.
All right, what about another Big Ten road team getting points? Michigan State plus 15.5. That's a lot of points at USC.
USC offensively is looking like USC. I like how Jordan Mayava has played since transferring from UNLV. But I trust the fact that we've seen progress from Aiden Childs, the quarterback at Michigan State, and they look a lot more balanced. And I think when you add the fact that they were playing some games last year, it was kind of like inconsistent, and now they're undefeated and playing good, solid, consistent ball, it'll make this game a lot tighter than that 15.5 point spread.
Got it. All right, more underdogs. Now you're going to take a favorite, the first favorite, Miami. You're laying 7.5. That's a dicey number against Florida. You just have versus here. Where's that game? Is that at Florida?
Is that Miami?
Oh, it's at Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Miami is home favorite against Florida. Man, DJ Lagway, we might get to this later. Whew, did not look very good for Florida at all. Miami's kind of been awesome so far this year. So you're going to expect that to continue against a Gators team that's kind of reeling. It's kind of getting late early for Billy Napier.
And this is a situation where you can knock down a rival in an emphatic way. Offensively speaking, for Miami, they play solid ball. But defensively, they've been great. And I like the fact that their defense has been consistently playing this way. So it wasn't a one-off that we saw in week 1 against Notre Dame. This is something that they've carried out throughout the season. This makes Miami a legitimate top 5 program right now in the country. So I no problem laying these 7.5 points. Plus, we just watched Lagway throw 5 picks. Like I can't get past that. Going up against this great defense, you saw what that LSU defense did, which is a very good one. This is a just as good as LSU's defense, if not slightly better in terms of pass rushers.
Michigan, Nebraska. This is your only total of the week. You like the under 44.5 for the Wolverines and the Cornhuskers with their young gunslingers in Underwood and Raiola.
This is mostly about defenses in this game. I like both defensive efforts that'll be brought to the table in this matchup against 2 young QBs, and therefore this game will be tight. Like whichever quarterback you trust to make a play, that's irrelevant. Both defenses will have their say, especially at the point of attack.
Purdue, you're taking another road dog. Purdue plus 26.5 at Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish are 0-2 with a tough schedule playing Miami and Texas A&M, but Notre Dame's lost both of them. You like the Boilermakers getting the 26.5.
I could see Notre Dame winning this ball game 30-13, and that's the only number we care about. I like Purdue has gotten better this year in the Barry Odom in terms of like they're competitive. They're in games. Their offense is scoring. Maccabee, I'm a big fan of. Even though he wears that big ugly number 45, I love the way he runs the football. Right? You could only get away with that if you're Archie Griffin and Maccabee. You know what I'm saying? So there's only 2. So I like the fact that he's running the football in that ugly number. And so I like them to score points against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense hasn't been what we thought it was going to be. So therein lies their ability, or a pathway for them to cover.
Time to finish this episode strong right after this. Yeah, buddy, going up to Buffalo this week. I'm actually flying up there because I got to get to Nashville on Friday morning, so it's rare. I usually drive up to Buffalo. That means it's Labatt Blue Light time for your boy. I mean, it always is. But now I get a chance to buy a little bit more beer so I can get a little bit more gear. With their Buy Beer, Get Gear program, it's rewards.labattusa.com. At a minimum, you owe it to yourself to go check out their incredible merch. Rewards.labattusa.com. Another road dog, NC State, getting 2.5 at Duke, a Duke squad that's kind of reeling right now.
If I wasn't already 10 toes cemented down with my Haynes King best quarterback in the ACC take, quarterback number 2 would be C.J. Bailey of North Carolina State. 6'7", 200-something pounds. This dude is going to be a legit first-round pick next year. He's a sophomore this year. Boy, he's playing some phenomenal football. He put on some weight, still slim, but he put on more weight than he looked last year as a true freshman. But this dude, Ross, like the Wake Forest game, he was making some of the best throws you'd ever see a quarterback make. Decision-making, accuracy, placement. He is going to be the guy for 2027. But this year, I still got to stay with my guy, Haynes King. But NC State wins this ball game, so definitely I like them plus the points.
Wow. That's high praise for C.J. Bailey. I don't even know much about. I don't think the country knows a whole lot about him yet. That's exciting to know there's another up-and-coming quarterback. They know a little something about tall quarterbacks at NC State. Mike Glennon back in the day. All right, last but not least, the Apple Cup, which will be on CBS. Washington is laying 20.5 on the road in Pullman at Washington State for the Apple Cup. 20.5 is how many points they're laying, and you're going to do it.
Yeah, I feel bad for Washington State, man. But Washington has a very good quarterback. They have a great running back. That's an NFL prospect, probably a day 2 guy. And so at the end of the day, like this is just a better football team than Washington State. So I'm going to lay these 20.5 points and sleep very comfortably while doing so, Ross. This one I'm not worried about.
What is the deal with the top quarterbacks in college football right now? Yeah. You know, I mean, Arch Manning was not good at all against UTEP. You know, we mentioned Lagway. I didn't think Nussmeier looked that good. He had a terrible pick in that game. Cade Klubnik has gotten off to a bad start. Penn State's beating up on 3 bad teams and they're winning, but Drew Aller hasn't really looked that great. This was supposed to be a great quarterback class, a much better quarterback class than this past quarterback class. And here we are now where I don't know who's the guy that's going to be number one. Who's the guy that's looking the best right now?
A lot to unpack right there, Ross, and I'll try to do it quickly. When you think about that statement of, oh, next year's class is better, it's never better. They just don't like this class for whatever reason, right? Shador and Cam Ward are far and above better than whoever the top quarterback would be in this class. So that's that question. The second part of it is that you can see how groupthink permeates throughout the rest of the narrative in the media landscape, because you have people that get hung on these names, right? Nussmeier, Aller, you talk about Klubnik, and you talk about,
Arch Manning.
Arch Manning, right? Arch Manning was number one with a bullet in everybody's mock draft, right? Based on 95 passes. And so but that kind of focused everybody's attention on just those names. And everybody's just kind of recycling the same 5 names. If everybody just zoomed out and did what they were supposed to do and just evaluated the whole class, you'd see the Taylor Green. You'd see the Haynes King. And that's why I threw the comp out there the other day about Bo Nix and how he plays. How could you watch Bo Nix and how he plays and not see the same thing for Haynes King and how he plays? They're the same guy. They're playing the same doggone game. So Haynes King can translate to the next level. Taylor Green, 6'6", 225, second year with Bobby Petrino's offense. And we've seen the productivity with every other quarterback that has entered his second season in that offense with Bobby Petrino has done a great job. Haynes King is off to a phenomenal start and looks calm, composed, and is playing above the X's and O's and is doing a lot of it from the pocket like people want to see him do. So if you're doing the justice by the job, you evaluate everybody and don't come out with these takes, because now they're saying, oh, well, this class may not have, maybe we should pump the brakes on this class being generational. Or you can just talk about the 2 guys as are really standing out in Taylor Green and Haynes King.
Love it. The keg is kicked. We're all tapped out. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to College Draft. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and Fantasy Feast, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.